I installed a camera mirror in place of the dinky mirror that came with the truck.
Today's video, I will be putting in the coolest accessory I have yet to put in my Cybertruck. If I look happy, it's because I am, because this is so exciting. We all know that when you bought your Cybertruck, it came with this ridiculous excuse for a rear view mirror. This little thing was supposed to fit up here and you were supposed to see outside the back. The problem is, with your tonneau cover shut, it was literally pitch black. You could see nothing. So just a bigger mirror doesn't help you. Hansshow stepped in and created a digital backup camera. And let me tell you, total game changer. Hansshow has partnered with me. If you'll use my channel name as a discount code, Charisma, you will get 20% off this and anything else in your cart for the starter. And if they have special discounts in the future, my promo code will give you the best possible discount you can get. So use it today, Charisma, get 20% off of this. And I'm telling you, if you get no other accessory for your Cybertruck, get this freaking mirror right here. In order to put this in, I did have to remove my radar detector with its special mount I had, which was hard to do because I loved doing that. And truthfully, I thought I might just put this in for the video and then I'd put it right back and just make Hansshow happy. But I've totally changed my mind on this. This rear mirror is absolutely staying. So I was able to still use my hardwire kit that I put in earlier. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you watch that. I'll leave you the link at the end. So I am gonna still put my radar detector back up with the suction mount that it came with. The other huge benefit this has, it also has a front camera that will give you a rear view and a front view. So total game changer. I'm gonna show you the easiest way to how to install this. Basically, I'll show you how to install it through here. Once you install it, you're gonna run a little included extension cable up through the truck in here. And again, you're not gonna see it. It's already installed and you can't see it anywhere. You're gonna run it through here, all the way through here, beside the door. We're gonna go underneath this panel and then go through to the back where you're gonna mount it right back here to give you a perfect backup camera, a digital 4K picture, better than the picture that's on your display of the Cybertruck right now. So here's the camera here, and you can see just for comparisons how much larger it's gonna be than the original that came in your Cybertruck. So the first step you're gonna do is you're gonna remove this mirror. You're just gonna take the little T20 Allen wrench, and there's just one single screw we're gonna remove. Next, we're gonna remove this little plastic shell, which is very easy, but then we're also gonna remove this little column right here. So the first thing you wanna make sure you do is go ahead and make sure your visor isn't holding it on, because that's gonna restrict your process.
You'll take the provided orange trim tool and just pry this little plastic shell off from the sides, one clip at a time. Then after you pull the column loose, you're gonna locate the power supply, which is on the white plastic harness. Next, you'll carefully disconnect this power supply from its white harness. From there, you're going to locate the wire in your kit that looks like the letter Y. You'll want to stick the ends of this cord with the plastic ends into each of the white wire harnesses you just disconnected. The third leg of this wire connection will eventually be used to power your mirror.
So next, we're going to have to install this little bracket up into the old mount position, but you are going to need to put it on the rear view mirror first. Now, it is going to come with a little black screw in it, so remove that screw before you put the bracket on. Once you remove the screw, you're going to put the little mount back on, and the open end of the mount is going to go toward the camera like so. Then one weird thing about this is the black screw they give you, the T20 Allen wrench that you took the screw out with won't fit. So you have to either get an Allen wrench or the T15 will work to put that screw back in snug. Mine came looking like this. I'm going to want to fish these wires through the back of this here, because this little slit is where they're going to want to go back up into it to hide the wires. So I just slid these through here one by one.
And you will have to do it one by one because all three of the heads of the connections won't fit through the little gap at the same time until it looks like this. Next, I'll take all of those wires and feed them through the opening in the little plastic shell that will house the outside of your rear view mirror camera.
I'm going to hook the front camera up first. The front camera is the one that's going to look like this little angle. And so I want to, again, make this connection up in the void of the mirror. And I'm going to mate it up to the one that says front camera, which is on mine is the yellow one. You can see there's a little notch here. That notch is going to fit with the notch of this cable. And they're just going to mate right in nicely like that. I'm going to take this one here, which is the largest of them. It's the thickest wire. It's the one that has the odd writing on it. And I'm going to mate that with the one that I supplied earlier. That's my splitter. This is what's going to give me camera from the truck into my mirror. Same kind of thing, except for in reverse. The one has a little divot out of it. And you can see the female end is going to have a divot out of it here. And these are just going to mate like so. Next, you're gonna wanna hook up your rear camera to the one that says our camera. However, you don't wanna connect this right here because you're gonna use your extension cable. Here, same kind of thing again. On this one, I've got a little indention here. And on this cable here, I've got the little indention. And those are just gonna mate together right at that spot. Next, I'm gonna insert my extension cable in. Now this one, I'm not gonna run through the hole. This one, now it's gonna end up running back through here, which we'll get to, but I'm gonna install this right on the back. I'm gonna go right next to this cloth wire. So I'm gonna kind of feed this in, just like this. As we hook this all in together, my front camera, I'm just gonna hold out the top and not try to run any of the wire exposed because I'm just gonna get this kind of right in here. In the last edit, if I wasn't clear with this earlier, I decided to run my front camera cord out the front, and I didn't try to run this along the side here that I've seen other people do in their videos. Because your clips for this top part here are on the sides of both sides, you need this to be able to fit tight right back here, but there are no clips on the front. So if the front is tipped down a little bit more for like my radar detector wire and for this front camera wire, that's fine because it won't affect how it clips in, and that's how I would recommend doing this. I want to get this little tip. So all the wires from your camera, the 3 of them, are all going to fit through this hole, and we're going to do all your connections inside. So all these are fitting through this tiny little hole that even once I go to put this bracket on, it's going to cover just so much of that hole. So I'm going to use some very miniature diagonal cutters to open up this hole a little bit more to give me a little bit more room to work.
I did install my camera the first time without doing this, so it is possible. I just felt like this step made it a little bit easier and didn't pinch the wire.
Now to be clear, you don't have to do this. You can run it just fine. I just think it gives me a little more flexibility. You don't have to use diagonals. You could use some kind of little Dremel or a fine tool, or you could even just sand it or get a file. Just opening this hole up is gonna make it a little bit easier, but you do not have to do it. I installed this before without this just fine. It's just a little bit easier this way. Another step I do that you don't have to do, I've just found makes this a little bit easier. So if you'll notice, right up here, there's just so much going on. Your void is gonna be a little bit more like down here in the edges, but also you don't wanna make sure you ever interfere with these little clips here. So I'm just gonna tape some of these wires down away so I know exactly where they're clipping in, because I don't wanna shear off a wire or just put an indentation and then it not work. Next little tip I'll give you. So even with the little cutout that I do to the plastic housing, it still pinches the wires a little bit. So you're gonna wanna get this as tight to the plastic as possible before you put it up in, because if you have a bunch of slack now and you put it in, you're gonna have all that slack in the future. So what I do is I get it really tight to the plastic, as you'll see here in a minute. And then once I get it tight, I'm gonna zip tie it with this, with all those wires in together, and it'll hold it really tight so this won't fall back. When you're putting the screw back in, they of course give you this little Torx little angle drill, but you need a little bit of space here. So what I do is I just grab a T20 bit on a little extension, and I'll be able to get back up in there a little bit, and it lets me get some spin and some torque that I couldn't with my fingers all tight in there.
So just as I explained, I used that little drill and extension to put that screw back up into the mirror.
Now I've got this back into place. I've got my camera mounted on. I've got this snap back in place. I do want to show you one quick edit I made after I got done filming. Is I decided to make the connection from the rear camera to the extension cord up here outside of the void area. You can see right there, that's where I made that connection. The reason I decided to make that connection out here and not inside here was there was just so much clutter in here, and you can't hardly see this right here, and you can only see it from the passenger side anyway. I feel like this is a better option. It's gonna be a little bit easier of an install to you, but if you make the connection here, that'll work just fine also. Last edit, if I wasn't clear with this earlier, I decided to run my front camera cord out the front, and I didn't try to run this along the side here that I've seen other people do in their videos. Because your clips for this top part here are on the sides of both sides, you need this to be able to fit tight right back here, but there are no clips on the front. So if the front is tipped down a little bit more for like my radar detector wire and for this front camera wire, that's fine because it won't affect how it clips in, and that's how I would recommend doing this. Now I basically have to figure out a way to run this extension cord all the way around the back of the car. It's going to start with running along the side of here, which again, you'll never see except for you're sitting in the passenger seat and it's black, so it really blends in there. Run this alongside of here. Now I can pull down this kind of felt lip just a little bit, and by doing this, I can hide this wire underneath all the way down
until the very edge.
Okay, so I've seen other people install this and they leave the wire looped right over this little felt here. Well, I don't like that. And truthfully, it's not that hard to get around it. So I'll show you how I pull this loose from the inside. We've already done here. This little trim, if you give it a little bit of pull, it's kind of just rubber. This will come down. And if you can pull down a little here, now be careful because right in here is your airbag, but I can pull this down. You can see here, this wire, I'm feeding it through from the other side. You can see here, this is where I kind of fished it up over this panel, over this panel right here, but under this, and where I can just pull it here, it's where I've now pulled it completely past the car.
From there, I just fed the entire 15-foot of cable through to where it was taut. Then I just used my little trim tool and tucked the wire in all along the rest of the passenger door, across that column, all the way past the rear door. From there, you can see you work your way down the rear column, right to get to the edge of the plastic, and you'll tuck it in and make a turn towards the stainless steel of the body. Keep tucking all the way down to the bottom.
Okay, so now that I've got the wire all the way down to here, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this fender off. If you don't know, these just pull right off also.
The rear fenders don't have any cameras in them, so they just pop right off. Again, use that little included trim tool to your advantage. Then you're just gonna run this wire up and over the wheel well.
So now that I have the cable through here, I'm gonna wanna go through a little void in the truck right through here to where I'm gonna come out below the truck down here. So what I'm gonna do is I have a long, flexible fish tape. I'm gonna try to feed this from the in spot here through that wheel well over there where I can grab the wire and then pull it back through.
After a little bit of trial and error, I found it was easiest to fish my little flexible fish tape in from the fender back down to the hitch area. From there, I just use some electrical tape and tape the wire to that fish tape where I could then pull it back through and get the edge of that cord. Then I just went ahead and snapped that fender back on.
Where you determine to put the rear view camera is totally up to you. I'll show you where I put it, which I'm biased, but I think it's the best way. I've seen other videos where people put it at the bottom of the plastic. Well, I can't do that because I have my hitch and my ball on all the time. That doesn't work for me. That's how some people put it literally on the bottom of the receiver. That doesn't work for me either because of the hitch. So what I'm gonna do is mount it up high. When you're testing yours out where you're gonna put it, make sure you test it with the tailgate up and with the tailgate down so you know you're not going to be obstructed, it's not going to be in the way of anything you do.
I tested the camera in several spots before I found right at the top center of the license plate would be the best spot for me. When I tested the camera at the bottom of the license plate, it looked fine, but I was worried about snow buildup since I'm in Colorado and I didn't want that to be able to cover my camera, so that's why I chose to put it up top. I just edited my bracket a little bit that would fit the best. I just bent it a little bit of a U so that I could still twist my camera 90 degrees and still let the mount fit flush onto my license plate at the same time. The included mount basically had the camera at a 90-degree angle, and I wanted to be straight out where I was putting it. At first, I just used the 3M tape on the included bracket to stick it there while I ended up drilling the hole. So I went to pass the cord through my bumper right there. I did it with just one strategically placed hole that was the exact size of the largest point of my cable where I could just feed this through and then go ahead and make the connection down below. And just to hide the cord a little bit more, I removed the screws of my license plate and just went ahead and slid that cord behind it. So you really only see about 1.5 inches of my cord from where it comes up through the hole, where it goes back in underneath and behind the license plate. Once I knew I had the camera exactly where I wanted it, walking back up to the front of the truck, testing the picture several times, I decided to go ahead and pull it off, take the camera out from its mount, and go ahead and put a self-tapping screw into the back of that mount, fasten it right to the license plate, and then I screwed the mount back to the camera. I finished up by zip tying up all the excess cable and hiding it in a void of the bumper. From there, I moved back to the front of the truck where I tucked in as much of the cables I could for this front camera until there was literally next to nothing you could see, and then stuck that to the mirror with the included tape. And then it began to start testing out the mirror. You can change the position of this front camera, so go ahead and take a minute to make sure you adjust this to the best that you can. And then you start to see the full awesomeness of just how great this camera is. How you can scroll and move your picture up and down. You can see not only your front, but the rear, but also has the split screen option where you can see both of the cameras at the same time. But it's not until you start driving where you truly see how amazing this picture is. The full 4K picture is just so noticeable when you compare it to the screen backup camera already on your truck. And if for whatever reason you didn't want the video, the mirror still works as a mirror just fine.
I know that video was a help to you, and you'll see now this is the way to install this video. Subscribe to the channel because I've got a whole other bunch of cool things coming your way. Within the next week, I'm going to install a light bar, also from Hansshow up top, and also I have a cargo divider. I'm going to show you a couple cool things that I got from Test Studio where I can put that in the back. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is not going to want to miss it. Cool stuff like this is going to keep coming your way.